Counseling is not for professionals only. Related to the intimidation of pastors regarding their inadequacy to effectively counsel is the myth that only a professionally trained counselor can be effective. To the contrary, it has never been established that advanced degrees or training in psychology have contributed to the effectiveness of a psychotherapist. No research studies have ever demonstrated the effectiveness of professional psychotherapists over non-professionals. In fact, the very opposite is true.
When you look into the research, there are several things you find out. One is that in order to have effectiveness, if it exists at all, it's unrelated to credentials. It doesn't matter if you're an MD, PhD, or no degree at all. That's very clear in the research. And when you look into this area, you find out there are a number of studies having to do with amateurs and professionals. And what happens is you get startled by the results because the results are fairly equivalent. At Vanderbilt University, Dr. Hans Strupp conducted a research study in which he had long experienced psychotherapists, degreed and licensed and all, compared to some amateurs that he brought in. These amateurs were other professors in the institution who had no training in psychotherapy at all, and gave, as nearly as they could, equivalent groups of students to these two groups of, in quotes, therapists. I say in quotes because obviously the other professors were not therapists by license. And what happened is the results were relatively equivalent.
Consider the conclusion of a lengthy research project conducted by Dr. Joseph Durlak.
Overall outcome results in comparative studies have favored non-professionals. There were no significant differences among helpers in 28 investigations, but non-professionals were significantly more effective than professionals in 12 studies. The provocative conclusion from these comparative investigations is that professionals do not possess demonstrably superior therapeutic skills compared with non-professionals. Moreover, professional mental health education, training, and experience are not necessary prerequisites for an effective helping person.
The number one ingredient in change, recovery, whatever you want to call it, is the individual himself. The number two ingredient, if somebody's brought into the situation, is the therapeutic alliance. And it's interesting, there is a psychiatrist who has looked into this, and what he says is that the person has to have the same worldview as the person who comes to him. And now when we're dealing with worldview, why do we send people away from the church? We have a biblical worldview. To the world, they don't have a biblical worldview.
Thomas Zaz, a non-practicing Jew, one of the world's leading research psychiatrists, said psychotherapy is a fake religion that seeks to destroy true religion. In fact, he said that Freud's major motive in life was revenge against Christianity. Why is it called a religion? You got to take it by faith. There is no evidence to support this. I mean, all the evidence is to the contrary, in fact. They've come up with theories, and now I'm going to believe their theories. Now it's going to transform my life. It is going to give me the motivation to become the kind of a person that I want to be, and so forth. All of these things really infringe upon religion, morals. How do I live? What do I really believe? What is worthwhile in life? This is what psychology claims to deal with. Furthermore, it's the knowledge of the psyche, the soul. Carl Jung said, yeah, psychology is all about the soul, but we don't know what the soul is. So it claims to be dealing, in fact, psychology is getting more and more into what they call the transpersonal, the spiritual, the non-physical side. They've kind of left Freud's medical model in the dust, and now they're getting more into the feelings and the spiritual side. Well, this is religion.
In the section of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, under the heading of other conditions that may be a focus of clinical attention is code V62.89, religious or spiritual problem. Examples include distressing experiences that involve loss or questioning of faith, problems associated with conversion to a new faith, or questioning of spiritual values. One wonders what part of a psychotherapist's training prepared him or her to deal with issues of faith and spiritual values. What about Christian psychology? Wouldn't that be beneficial to the counseling process by adding a biblical worldview? Based upon the premise that all truth is God's truth, many psychotherapists who profess to be Christians have attempted to mix psychological concepts with their Christian beliefs, convinced that they have the best of both the temporal and spiritual worlds.
This common phrase or excuse for looking to Freud or Jung or Rogers or Maslow or somewhere for truth. It says, well, all truth is God's truth. Well, I guess Buddha had some of it too. Freud or Jung or whoever. No. What do we mean by truth, first of all? All truth is God's truth, okay? But what do we mean by truth? Jesus said, you will know the truth. You continue in my word. This is John 8:31. You continue in my word, then are you my disciples indeed, and you will know the truth. The truth will set you free. The truth is not 10 times 10 is 100. In John 8:45, Jesus said, because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. Now you know that the truth must be something very special. He wouldn't say, well, because I tell you 10 times 10 is 100, you don't believe me. Or because I give you some facts of science, you don't believe me. No, the truth is something very special. Well, what is it? John 14:17, Jesus said, I'm not going to leave you comfortless. I will send the Comforter to you, even the Spirit of truth. And he says, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him. And then if you went to John 16:13, Jesus said, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will lead you into all truth. Well, if the Spirit of truth leads into all truth, and the world cannot receive him because it doesn't even know what this truth is, this is God's truth. Jesus said, thy word is truth. I am the truth. Then we're not talking about something that Freud or Jung or Rogers or Confucius or anybody else could come up with. We're talking about something that only comes from God. It is understood by his Holy Spirit indwelling the believer. And this is from his word, and this is what we need.
Well, Christian psychotherapy, if you're really dealing with a professional who is a Christian, that's really a contradiction in terms, because what's happening here is you're having a Christian, if he's truly a believer, he's been brought up in the faith as a converted individual. The Bible is the truth. And he's dealing with psychology, which is not truth. It's just guesses and opinions. And so you can't really put together Christian and psychology or Christian and psychotherapist. It's just two terms that should not be put together. And as a matter of fact, we did a research study once for CAPS, the Christian Association for Psychological Studies, and we found there was almost the same diversity of orientations among these Christians who are practitioners as there were among the secularists who are practitioners. Lots of diversity, Freudian, Adlerian, Jungian, Rogerian, etc. And so we have this great variety of practices, and yet these people, whenever they put together Christianity in the term Christian and psychologist, we get pretty upset about that because it should never be done.
Let me put it like this. Psychology, human wisdom, the wisdom of this world, has nothing to offer unless it has picked it up from the Bible. And there are some of these things that have slipped into psychology.